Hey Choppers, welcome to our preview for Old Salt, a naval gateway game for 2 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and plays about 60 to 90 minutes depending on the amount of players. Now, in this beautiful wooden crafted game, you draft your fleet of ships and sail around the board trying to obtain control of different islands while blowing up your enemy's fleets of ships. If first player 6 islands or to be the last fleet standing wins. So let's go ahead and get to the table, take a look at it. So we have the board set up here according to the quick setup rules in the rulebook, and this is for 4 players. Now normally you would get to draft the different ships, but the quick setup actually takes 4 of the 6 factions and tells you how to set them up on the board and what to grab, what types of ship to grab, but we're going to go over all those types of ships and the factions here. Now remember that this is a prototype and the stuff that you see is subject to change, such as we have the Barbarian here with the different abilities on it, and since I've gotten this prototype, the Barbarian's last stand ability has changed from what is printed on this board, but we'll go over the abilities and stuff here in a second. There are 6 different factions in the game, and they're all represented on boards like so. So you have the Forgotten, the Engineers, the Eternals, the Barbarians, the Elite, and the Bootleggers. And for this quick setup, we only use the first 4 that I named. So let's go ahead and take a look at the faction board for the Forgotten, for example, because all the faction boards are basically set up the same. You can see it's got the name right here, Forgotten. It's got 3 words below it: sly, elusive, and slippery. These represent how to play this faction the best, that'll work with the abilities. It has the symbol up here that you will find on your banner and masts for this faction. It also has a little slogan here that they go by. You see, run with the risk, carry the bigger stick. And it has 3 different faction abilities on here, and they show you like what the symbol is because they will match tokens, because sometimes you have to track the abilities on the game board, and how much it costs in gold coins to use that ability. You can see here for the range expertise, it costs 1 gold. They also tell you well, the title of the ability. You can see range expertise, and when you're able to do that ability. Say on your turn here, anytime, and this one when fired on by an opponent. Now these different ones will be able to be used during the game. Now the board consists of 14 different islands on them. You can see 12 of these islands actually have banners on them with ships surrounding them for the beginning of this game. Each player will start off controlling 3 of these islands. You can see we've got the 12 that I mentioned, but there's also an island up there, and there is an island down here. So there's 2 islands that are unoccupied. On a normal game, like this is set up for 4 players, but if you have less than 4 players, any islands that are not occupied by a player at the beginning of the game will get covered up with ocean tokens, so that you won't be able to claim those islands during the game. Now, at the beginning of the game, whenever people claim islands, like I said, this is the quick setup, so we already have the islands claimed here, but you will draft starting with the first player going around, and then once you reach the last player, they will place 2 banners on islands, and then you'll go back around. But you can see already here that, let's say, the Forgotten, which we looked at their faction board already, controls this island up here, which you can see it has its banner on there with its little faction symbol. And it also controls the island down here in the corner, and as you can see, this island over here, and it's got ships on them. Now the ships have masts on them, and the masts, sorry, I'm trying to pronounce it, masts with a T, their symbol matches what's on the banner, so you can keep track of which ships are yours on the board. And during a normal game, players will start off with about 17 gold coins, is what the book suggests, to be able to buy 5 different types of ships for your faction. Now the 5 different types of ship in the game that you can purchase at the beginning of the game, because you can't purchase any later on during the game. Once you purchase ships, that's all you get during the game. If they die and they're out, you don't get to purchase anymore. So you got to be strategic about it. But you have the Grunt, the Zealot, the Marksman, the Hazard, and the Leviathan. And each one costs a different amount of gold points, but they also have a different amount of health and or abilities, depending on what kind of ships you choose. Also at the beginning of the game, you will shuffle up the 9 different trade wind tokens, and then choosing one at random once they're all shuffled up, because you turn them face down because they all have the same backing on them. So you turn them face down, you shuffle them, and then you choose one at random and toss it back in the box. So you will only have 8 of these trade wind tokens that you're playing with during the game. And then you make them into a stack all shuffled up. Now the colors, red, green, and blue, correspond to different areas, trade wind areas on the board. And on every turn at the beginning of every turn during the game, except for the first turn, you will draw the top off of the trade wind stack and reveal it and place that token on the corresponding area for that color. And what that does is if there is one of these tokens in that trade wind color, whenever you sail through it, you'll be able to sail extra, because usually you can only sail 3 spots on the board, but you'll be able to go an extra one to a maximum of 2 extra. So you'll have a total of 5 spots you can sail to during your turn. This is also one of the end game triggers. If all 8 of the trade wind tokens have been revealed, you play one final round of the game, and then you'll figure out who the winner of Old Salt is. The other 2 win conditions of the game are you control immediately 6 islands on the board. The first player to control 6 islands wins. Or you are the last ship standing on the board. That will win you the game. Now, once you have the board set up and the trade wind tokens all ready to go, players will determine who goes first. Either they can use the first player from when they were drafting, or they can roll a die and choose a new first player. But then everybody will get an amount of gold coins based on how many players there are. Like, first player will receive 2 coins on the first round, second player will receive 3, and so forth, depending on how many players. At the beginning of your turn, after round 1, you will receive coins equal to the number of islands you control, with a minimum of 3. Because even if you lose an island to a player, you will still get a minimum of 3 coins at the beginning of your turn to spend. Now, during your turn, you are able to sail up to 3 of your ships. You don't have to sail all 3 of them, but you can sail up to 3 of your ships. And that's the maximum for sailing. Now, that doesn't restrict other things you can do, such as firing on an opponent's ship with some of your ships, or possibly seizing an island, or using faction abilities and different stuff like that. You can still do those with the ships that you either sail or that you don't sail, as long as you have coins to pay for the different abilities, or you have health available to fire a certain amount of times. But we'll get into firing on other ships here in a minute. So you're able to sail up to 3 ships, and we'll show you what sailing looks like. Alright, so let's pick one of the ships. We'll pick this hazard right here of the Engineers faction. This is the island that they control. So let's say this hazard here it's the Engineer's turn. This hazard ship right here, they're going to pick this one was one of their 3 ships that can sail. So when you sail, you get 3 spaces that you could sail. It's going to go 1, 2, and then it's going to turn. Oops, I knocked over that banner right there. It's going to turn like so, and 1 more into the green trade wind area. So that'd be the 3 spots it can sail. Now let's go ahead and reset that over here. And let's say that the green trade wind had been revealed on it either at the beginning of the turn or on an earlier turn. Now, whenever that hazard ship, let's say it's going to sail, so it gets 1, 2, and it's going to turn, and it goes 3. Since it enters the green trade wind spot here, it gets 1 more spot that it can sail. So it's going to go a 4th spot. And if another one of those had been revealed sometime during the game, it would get to move 1 more spot, because it get a maximum of 5. So right about now, you're probably asking yourself, well, how do I capture an island? How do I seize an island? Well, let's take for the example our ship right here from the Engineers that's getting close to this island right here. This is an uncontrolled island. It does not have a banner from a rival faction on it. The ones that have banners on them are called controlled islands. So let's go ahead. Let's say our ship sails on a future turn adjacent to the island. Now, when this happens for an uncontrolled island, you can try to seize it by paying 2 gold coins and 1 banner. You can see here we've got one of the Engineers banners. You can see 1 banner that you've captured from destroying other ships, and you pay this to put your banner on that island. Or if it is a controlled island, you'll switch banners, you'll capture their banner and put your banner there on the island to show that you control it. Now, if it is one of another player's factions, you'll pay the same amount, but you'll have to pay an extra gold for each ship that is within 2 tiles of the island of that faction that you're trying to capture that island of. Now we get to the fun part of the game, the combat. When you fire on an opponent, you'll count the spaces from your ship to the ship that you want to fire on. So let's say we got done capturing this island over here, and we sailed over here, and we're going to try to fire on this ship over here. This is a hazard, and this one is a Leviathan. Now, the position of your ship in relation to the other ship is important, because depending on which way you're facing, different things will happen. But basic combat is you count the spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you'll roll these special 6-sided dice that has nothing on it for the 6-sided. It's between 1 and 5. And if you roll that number or higher, you successfully hit the ship and you deal 1 damage. This is the damage token that you will put underneath the ship that you hit. If you deal enough damage, or the last damage on that ship, you will get to take the mast off that ship and claim it as your own. And then, of course, you can turn them in to claim islands during the game, whenever you seize. Let's go ahead and look at that Leviathan token right there. You can see how it is set up with the black parts right there and the blue parts. So how this is set up whenever you're looking at combat determines different things. You know, you've got the bow, which is in the front, the stern, which is in the back, and then you've got the broadsides. And I'm going to show you the diagram in the rule book because it's a little bit hard to explain otherwise just showing you the token like that on the board. Alright, so here's the diagram. See, it has the bow, the stern, and the broadsides for it, and you can see they're spaced out like that. So how positioning affects fire, we'll just read it straight down here. So defensive, stern, or bow, so the one that's defending against the combat. It said when a player fires at your stern or bow, they must add 1 to the attack or roll difficulty. So like if they needed a 3 to hit you, now it's going to be a 4 if they're targeting your bow or stern. So the offensive broadside, it said if a target is inside the broadside spread, players have the option to exchange 2 coins for 3 shots fired. I forgot to mention before that whenever you want to fire on an opponent's ship, you have to pay 1 coin for each time you're firing, and you resolve them separately when you do it. So you know, if a target is inside the broadside spread, players have the option to exchange 2 coins for 3 shots fired instead of just the 1 coin per shot. And this is the offensive one, so this is the person that's attacking. Broadside attacks happen simultaneously despite rolling to hit 1 at a time. So yeah, it's all happening at once. Now if they're trying to hit your broadside, you're defending. If an attacker is in a target's broadside spread, the target can return fire 1 time for free if the targeted ship is still standing after the first attack or a broadside attack. Yeah, so if they're trying to hit your broadside, you can attack back for free if you're still standing after their attack. So you don't have to pay that 1 coin. Of course, because it's not on your turn, it's on the opponent's turn. You're just firing back at them. And that's the basics for Old Salt. First player to claim 6 islands or be the last man standing, or to have the most islands after the 8 trade wind tokens have been turned over wins. Of course, ties are resolved between who has, if the same players have the same amount of banners, then you check ships left, and then you check the amount of coins a player has, and so forth, until the tie is broken. But in a nutshell, that is Old Salt. Old Salt will be coming to Kickstarter around August 31st of 2021, so make sure you keep an eye out for it. I'm Logan for Logan Chops Previews. Please leave a like on this video and go ahead and comment down below about what upcoming Kickstarters you're expecting, what upcoming Kickstarters you're really looking forward to, and also which one of our videos you like the most. And as always, happy gaming. We'll see you next time.